What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, coming at you with another upload. And today's perfume experience is gonna be a rather designer bordering niche house that has a special place in my heart just because it was the first perfume I have obtained that took me away from Armani, Dolce & Gabbana, and Versace and the such into the territory of niche and more refined perfumery. Without further ado, today's house is Jo Malone of London, and we will be talking about Velvet Rose and Oud. And this is the bottle I have, and I've had this bottle for close to 15 years, if not more. I haven't used a lot of it, maybe if I'm lucky 1/4, but that's because this was the house that got me into the really high-end juice. And in terms of just what the bottle looks like, here's the cap, and here's the sprayer, and this is not focused as per usual. But Jo Malone was what got me into the sort of journey of perfume and opened my eyes into the possibilities of what's available out there. And I've known about Jo Malone since probably I was a kid, and that's been a long time ago. And I remember just walking by the store in the mall and just, seeing all of these very well dressed people, very well off people just coming out with bags of perfume, candles, the smelling sticks and all of that. I told myself one day I would like to have a Jo Malone. And sure enough, when the timing was right, I managed to cop myself a Jo Malone, and I spent a lot of time thinking carefully about which one I wanted, and that's because it was my first rather pricey, if you wish, niche designerish perfume. And I decided to go for Velvet Rose and Oud. And this, because it's really, really old, has the actual original Damascus Rose. Because I know that just going through the forums, that the new iterations don't actually have Damascus Rose, but they still advertise it as having Damascus Rose. But this one right here, I know for a fact, has the pure juice. So, the Jo Malone London Velvet Rose and Oud is advertised as cologne intense. Now, I think the cologne aspect is misleading just because the performance on this, while it's not beast, it's very close to being beast. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But what we'll do next is yours truly is gonna grab a sip of coffee, and then we're gonna get into the notes. I look forward to this every day, regardless of the time of the day. Morning, afternoon, evening. Because it's just a good time. Alright, so I do have the notes off of the Jo Malone website. So, in the top note, there's clove enveloping with spicy warmth. It adds instant richness. Within the heart note, there is damask rose. Roses are picked and distilled at dawn when the scent of the blooms is at its most exquisite. As the fragrance unfurls, this opulent floral with its spicy honey facets wraps the scent with sumptuous texture. Within the base note, there's oud, rich, resinous, and dark, with animalic accents, bringing intensity and depth to the fragrance. This is my attempt at being British, but I'll tell you right now, the oud in here does not smell resinous, heavy, or animalic. Not at all. It's actually very pleasant, and I'm not too sure if it's even natural oud. It might be, kind of a synthetic type. But without further ado, what I'm gonna do is I'll spray a bit of this just because I haven't had any perfume on me all day, and we can go through this. It's been a while since I've put this on, so wow, it's already intense, and I don't really need a lot. So, in terms of the juice, the liquid, the syrup of the gods, it's a bit oily. I've never really looked at it before, so this is the first time I look into it as we speak. And right about here, I don't know if the camera's gonna capture that because it's fairly clear, but it's very oily. And I don't pick on the clove. Now, is there a spicy facet to this? Yes. Is it clovey? No, not at all. I mean, at least I don't pick on it. The rose is there, and it's there in spades. If you love rose, this is a very good rose based perfume. And it's not like the Frederic Malle rose. I find the rose that's used in Frederic Malle is very intense. This is just right. It is the kind of rose that is feminine leaning. Generally speaking, I find that if you put rose with oud, it can be a bit masculine. But here it's much more feminine leaning. If you put this on, I think it's more suitable for a lady than for a man. Not to say that as a man you can't pull it. Obviously, I do use it, but it most certainly is more feminine leaning. Now, do you get the oud? That's a tough one because, yeah, I can't really pick on oud in here. Then again, I'm not sure what kind of oud they have in this. They have referenced animalic oud, so I'm assuming that they have some sort of Indian oud in there. Again, assuming the oud is genuine, which I don't think so. It smells great. It smells me a lot of the smells a lot like the natural rose products. So if you ever had rose water too, this is kind of what it reminds me of. So it's a Turkish delight with rose water flavor, or if you add rose water to your own drinking water, or if you just use rose water as part of the syrups for pastries, this reminds me of that. Now, this is not gourmandish whatsoever, but it does definitely have this strong rose note to it. I will say, even though the damask rose is in the heart, I'd say it's more the predominant note. The spice, it's there, but I mean, yeah, in terms of the oud, I can't pick on it. There is something a bit creamy in there in the background, a bit sort of powdery, but not too much. But it's a beautiful rose slash oud composition. I've put this in so many places and I've gotten a ton of compliments with it. It never fails to get me compliments. Surprisingly, I get most of the compliments from the guys, not the ladies. And that one is just amazing, amazing, amazing composition. And I will say, like, I smelt a lot of Joe Malone's. This till today is my favorite Joe Malone. I just like oud rose compositions. I like rose, not neat, because I do have a sample of neat rose, and that stuff is just, I don't know. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes I love it, but for the most part, it's very refined. It's very, I wouldn't say luxurious, but bordering luxurious. I love it. In terms of wear, I would say this is best for winter and evening wear, which is usually the times I'd wear them at. If you wear it in the morning, it can be a bit overwhelming just because the rose is intense in here. If you do wear it in the summer, again, the rose with the really strong heat will be suffocating. So my preference for this is winter or evenings. I wouldn't wear this to an office. It is too flirty. It is too playful. It is too feminine leaning. So if you're a dude, unless you know have a different orientation other than being straight, it's just yeah, it's gonna raise questions. It'll be interesting for conversation, but it's just not an office scent. I can see ladies pulling it in the office, but for guys, no, not really. Again, what other environments you can wear it? It's not a clubbing scent, by no means. It's not a scent where you'd wear and kind of meditate and relax because that rose is constantly there and it just hits your nose. As much as I love rose, it's one of those scents that just doesn't know how to chill. It just hits you, and it's like when you're about to relax and your nose is getting used to it, and you're getting desensitized to, the scent. Your nose picks it up again, and it's sharp. It's kind of like the best way I can explain it is like, and for those of you that hit the gym or do powerlifting, if you ever had smelling salts. Now, smelling salts feel like when you take a whiff, it's like you got stabbed in your frontal cortex, like in this area of your brain, like somebody shoved two chopsticks up your brain. I find rose does that to me, obviously not to the same extent, but it has that ability to kind of, snap me out of things and kind of focus my attention in the moment. And this is that kind of rose. It's not by any means overwhelming if you don't overdo it, and we'll talk about performance in a moment here, but it's definitely there. You will not miss it. You'll smell it the whole time on you. It's not one of those scents that tricks into your brain after a while into ignoring it. No. Your brain, and I say brain because your nose is connected to your brain, but you're constantly aware of it. It's there. And that's also kind of what makes this really endearing to me is the fact that, relative to a lot of other more expensive perfumes I have, this just, you get a bang for your buck with this one. Now, in terms of performance, projection, not beast mode, but just a tad under beast mode. Doesn't matter who who you're with or where you are, people are gonna pick on it. It just radiates towards people, and it's very, very easy to pick. People recognize it's rose. Is it overwhelming or to the point where people just shy away from it or just get turned off? No, not at all. It's very pleasant for most people. So it does project fairly well. Not beast mode, but I'd say bordering on beast mode. In terms of sillage and lingering, yes. Wherever you walk, wherever you've stayed, it will leave a trail behind, and that trail will linger. Again, is it beast mode? No, not quite there, but bordering on beast mode. So overall, I would say it's fairly good in terms of performance. The other thing I will mention is that it's one of those perfumes that when you spray on your clothes or your skin and you shower or wash your clothes, you can still smell it there. Granted, it's not very oily or resinous at all, but you definitely pick on it. It's definitely there, and that's not a bad thing. If you enjoy smelling good, that's not a bad thing at all. With respect to overall experience with this, I do think that there are more sophisticated roses on the market now that you can get, be it from designer or niche or even artisanal. However, taking things into perspective and relatively speaking, if you're looking for a fairly low to medium priced entry level spicy rose oud, you will not go wrong with Joe Malone Velvet Rose and Oud. It is very, very nice. And now I recollect, I did mention that there is a bit of a powdery facet to it. I find with British perfumery, they tend to have this powdery touch to them. And I'm assuming this was added there to try to give that, if you ever touch the rose petal, it has a velvety feel to it. Maybe that's why it's called velvety rose, who knows, but nonetheless, they're sticking within the tradition of British perfumery where there's a hint or a touch of powder there, which you don't really get with French perfume unless the French perfume explicitly is focused around a powdery theme. What else can I tell you about this? Would I recommend buying it? Yes, 100% down. No regrets. You can blind buy it. However, I will say this, shop around more because like I've had this for almost 15 years, maybe more. So there's been quite a few new things out, different formulations as well as just different rose compositions. Rose and oud is very traditional, actually. Sandal or santal, rose and oud is a very traditional blend from India, but you know, every designer niche artisanal house has their own version of it. So there's quite a lot of rose oud formulations out there. So get your nose on some of them before you decide what to get. Some of them are more oud leaning versus rose. Some are rose versus oud. The kind of oud also affects the scent of the rose. The kind of rose used. So you have all sorts of like Damask, Turkish. There's South American rose, like from Ecuador and Chile. There is rose from the Middle East, like Taifi rose. There's aged rose. There's fresh batches. Then there's the processing. What kind of processing and distillation was used to extract the oil? Don't stress over stuff like that. It's just stuff I picked over the years. But what I'm trying to say is that it's a nice scent. But if you're gonna spend, you know, a couple of $100, I think you can get better stuff. Not to say this is bad, this is fantastic, but there's newer stuff out there. So get your nose on all of these things, on all of these houses, on all of these perfumes, and see which rose oud suits you, because there's so many formulations. This is all this time. But I think this will be it for this upload. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do have rose oud recommendations, please do leave them down in the comment. I would be interested in you know, a new take on rose oud, or even a traditional one for that matter. I'm more interested particularly in artisanal natural, because I'm trying to get away from the synthetic stuff. That's where my collection is moving. But I still have quite a bit of synthetic designer slash niche perfumes, and I'm not gonna throw them away because I still do enjoy them. But let me know in the comments what rose oud compositions you enjoy or have or recommend. That would be very fascinating for me to, you know, get my nose on. I really appreciate your time and attention. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.